Nelson with CascadeMediaGroup, and tonight we've got one of my, I'd like to think colleagues to a certain extent, as I always tell this man, I'm not a journalist or any of that, I just do what I do, but Mr. Eric Wesson, and I think that he has really helped our community in a way from a publishing standpoint and covering important issues that affect our community in a very dignified way, a very intelligent way. And I'm happy to welcome him on the show tonight. Welcome, Mr. Wesson.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for having me. And I'm just trying to be like you. You know, you're sitting there making history every time you record a program. It's nothing that they can take away from you. So I commend you on your efforts. I want to be like you when I grow up.
Hey, man, please.
Rich, happy, and famous.
You know what, Eric? Sometimes you might think I'm kidding. Sometimes I think about you when I first came in contact with you up at the church on Linwood. They had something, Leon Dixon said, Carlos, you need to come to this. That weekly thing that they had. And
Black Agenda Group.
Was, right. And you had like one of the Muslim beanies on. And Mr. Dixon was giving me the 411 on you. And I just watched you over a 15-year period and watch you develop and, as I said, represent. So tonight, what I want to just do, like the rappers, I want to do freestyle. We just chop it up about different things. But first of all, I would like to ask you, what state do you see the Black community in Kansas City right now? And I'm talking about overall politically, economically, opportunity. Give up my viewership your opinion.
I think to a great degree we're in dire straits. I think that we lack, and I don't like saying this, but I'll say it because that's what most people relate to. I think that we lack the vision of one leader. And, you know, during the King era, he was the leader. So we don't have that, and that allows and makes us to be so fragmented. And when we get fragmented like that, then that allows people outside of our community that don't look like us or have melanin in their skin tone, that allows them the opportunity to pick our leaders because we don't. So I think in a lot of areas economically, you know, I often say this, 18th and Vine is basically 3 blocks. And in 40 years, we haven't been able to have 3 blocks developed. And I'm talking from Woodland to Highland, Highland to Vine, and Vine to Paseo. That's 3 blocks. And we can't get 3 blocks developed. So one thing is there's a lack of leadership. And it's like, you know, Black people in Kansas City, and I'll say it like this, they seem docile. You know, if something happens to somebody else outside our community, we get fired up, we run down there, we have demonstrations, we boycott, we have sit-ins on the plaza. But our own conditions with people that we know that live across the street or down the street or across the street from our grandmother or who we go to church with, it's like we're not connected to their pain. And that's tragic. So I think overall, there's still hope. But I think right now, if I were to gauge what's going on in the Black community, I would say we have very serious problems and we're in dire straits.
I'm in concurrence with that. Now, second part of that is, why do you see that happening? See, I have my own hypothesis of what's going on. Can you, in a short synopsis, tell us what you see as the main reason that we're in this condition?
Short-sightedness to a great degree. We don't, one thing I love to do is I love to play chess. And playing chess is like the long game, the end game. What's the overall big picture? And we know it's to capture the king. But what we do is we get short-sighted, and being short-sighted, we live for the moment and we don't look for the long game. Like playing golf, I think that's one of the things about golf is playing the long game. And I think that is what we haven't done, and we haven't established ourselves economically. We have tremendous spending power and we give it away and we get nothing in return. Example, we don't even have a Black-owned gas station in Kansas City in 2022. We don't have Black general contractors in 2022. We've got, some folks that claim they could be general contractors, and they probably could for projects like building houses and things like that, but it's no real money in that versus developing a shopping center or doing some of the projects like Kelvin Simmons is doing and Emmett Pearson. So we're on the outside of the economic spectrum looking in, because we don't control our politics, we don't control our economics. So, I often tease people about we like 2 weeks away from chopping cotton again, and we don't even realize it.
I like that analysis. That's more, to me, what you explained, that's really, it's simple, but in our community, you have to really be on a higher mental level to understand what you just said. But from my perspective, breaking that down, first of all, you don't have any.
Leon's Thriftway. We let Leon's go out of business.
Right. That's what I'm getting ready to allude to. I'm glad you brought Leon's up, because that's one of my talking points in a lot of my conversation about Black people and the control. First of all, since I've got into media, everything that I do, whether I'm eating or whatever, I'm looking through a media lens. I'm looking through that lens on why do I do this? Why do people do what they do? Why do Black people specifically do what they do? And here in Kansas City, we don't have no economics because, first of all, we don't really have any businesses. We have a handful of businesses, and they're really not what you would call businesses. You have barbershops, hair salons, nails, but then what you have is a lot of Black people that have these degrees and what have you. They consultants. They don't have no office. They don't have no investment. Most of the time, they have worked for a government agency, the school board, or something, and they've been trained by one of these corporations, and they have a Eurocentric trend of thought on how to do things and so forth. So that's the problem. You talked about short-sightedness. Short-sightedness means, from my perspective, everyone is only concerned about the meal that's going to be served tonight. They're not concerned about the meal that needs to come next month, 12 months, and all of that. In congruence with all of that, the world situation as it relates to economics and the real trickle down, where the 1% control the corporations. The corporations control the politics, and the politics control the laws that have us handcuffed. And so when we have political representation that is not really representing us, we cannot change the laws, which ultimately is controlling everything that the United States do, from economic, from war to everything. And all that control is coming from that 1%. And that 1%, most of the people in the United States and on the planet work for one of their corporations or one of their subsidiaries. Therefore, the economic pressure that is on Black people, you really can't say too much about anything in reference to furthering our cause, because you will lose your job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a fair representation of what's going on? To a short extent.
That's a fair representation, and it's accurate, but I'll take it one step further than that. And I'll say that even if we get into the political structure of things, we vote for people because they're Black. We don't vote for them based upon, and you know, it's kind of like reverse discrimination or reverse racism. We don't look at the overall picture of what has this person done for us in the past, what plan, what doable plan, the key word is doable plan do they have for us in the future? Case in point, I was listening to somebody that's running for political office, and they were talking about issues and things that don't pertain to the power within the office that they're running for. But because their cheat sheet or their frame or the mentality that they think Black people have, which is very limited when it comes to political structure, then they were making a lot of promises about things that they were going to do. And I was sitting there listening to them, and I'm like, but that doesn't fall within the realm of the political office that you're running for. If you're going to do that, then you need to run for the school board. If you want to do that, you need to run for the city. If you need to do that, you need to run for the United States Congress. What you're running for, it doesn't pertain to. But, you know, the people in the room, as I watched and kind of scanned the room, they were all mesmerized. They were clapping. They were giving standing ovations. And I was sitting there listening like, either you didn't take civics or you just not understanding what the political structure is. And
All
so
right.
that's it. We have a lot of political immaturity in our community, and therefore we elect people that don't represent us. And we have people, and I say this all the time, so this is nothing new. We have people that wake up one morning while they're washing their face and brushing their teeth, and they say, you know what, I think I'll run for a political office. They run out there, run a campaign, and because we like them, or our mothers like them, or our grandmothers or somebody in church, we vote for them and put them in office, and we get nothing in return. I think, and then we always make the comparison of the people in the Northland. But this is what the people in the Northland do. They have a plan, and they have a very structured plan. They don't allow people to just get up and decide to run for office. They send them through a process, and it's a long game. Quick example. Up north, if you run, first of all, the first thing they do is they put you on PIAC. Then when they put you on PIAC and you see how to move the money around, then they give you an agenda. So you run for office and you win, and you carry out that agenda. Several years, I guess it was probably about 10 years ago, Scott Wagner, who represented one of the districts up north, and the Star blasted them and said, oh my goodness, they're putting infrastructure out here in no man's land. There's nothing out here. They're putting sewers and sidewalks in and curbs and roads, and it's out in the middle of no man's land. It's just a total waste of taxpayer money. So what happened? 8 years after that, they gave the community a soccer park. All of that development that they were doing that everybody thought was senseless and a waste of money, it was a part of the long plan. So now all of that sidewalks, curbs, sewers, roads, all that stuff they built now connects to the soccer stadium. So when they came in with the soccer stadium, there was nothing anybody could say about it because they had already laid the foundation. How did they lay the foundation? Because they planned for it for 10 years before they actually implemented it. By the time they implemented it, it was smooth sailing. It took us 12 years to reopen the Linwood Shopping Center. 12 years. From the time it closed and tanked till Don Maxwell got with Sly James and the city manager, Troy Schulte, and redid it. 12 years. We talk about Leon Swiftway. You know, they tore those projects down behind Leon's. They tore them down. And what did the community say? We don't want no more low-income housing back there. We want middle-income housing back there. So they argued with HUD, made HUD tear all the plans up. 18 years later, there's nothing back there. And what people don't realize or understand is we always talk about what we don't want, but we never talk about what we do. But what people don't realize is 90% of the people that live back there behind Leon's supported the grocery store. When they took that housing away from back there, they took his base away. And nobody ever realized or understood it until it was time for him to close the doors. And so I guess one of the things that we have to get into is the long game. We don't understand it.
I concur with that, but you can't play the long game when you have a football team and everybody is the quarterback.
That is correct. And those that are quarterbacks need to be the water boy because they still can't even do the quarterback job.
Hey, without a doubt. Now, you know, I talked to you off camera, and this is one thing I want my audience to know. I asked Eric, what can we talk about? And not just on this show. In the past, he's like, Nelson, anything you want to talk about? I'm like, I'll get on these politicians. I'll get on anything that you want to talk about, I'll talk about. So I want to let my audience know about that. And he said, anything I don't want to answer, I just won't answer. You know, and so what I plan to do over the next 2 months, I plan to really go in on our Black politicians because I think that they are some type of movie star, or some type of celebrity, and they're using these offices for their personal gain. And there's very few of them that have any integrity when it comes to their word and some other things. And that's just how I feel. And when you start talking about long-term strategy, earlier, most of these kids, and they're kids to me, they don't understand, Mr. Nelson. I'm 70 years old, and even if you're 50, you're just a kid to me, and you definitely don't have the life experience, the business experience that I have to look at our community through a different lens. And I think that what you were saying about the political maturity, not only of our community, but of our politicians.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely correct.
I think I'd like to move on to this subject. You're involved in this, but we already know what you give back. But that airport, I am so tired of Blacks peddling their MBE status, and then they get these contracts, and then how much of that money do they actually spend in the community? Real money. Not no couple of $100 that you do something with a black company and say, oh, look, I'm spending money with where you've gotten 70, 100,000, 300,000, $500,000. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, the first thing that I would say about that is, where is there anything to spend my money at in the community? Okay, so I eat breakfast or lunch every day at M&M Bakery. They closed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of my week. I make a conscious effort to go in there and get the #1 breakfast sandwich or a turkey, smoked turkey and beef sandwich or tuna. I make a conscious effort to do that every morning. I make a conscious effort, just me, to spend money wherever I can with Black people. And you alluded to this earlier, but outside of barbecue, hairdos, nails, where can I spend my money at? Okay, I need to buy, and I bought vehicles from Marcus over there. I have him order me vehicles from Marcus. We got the other brother over there by Gates on 47th Street that sell autos as well. Where can I spend my money at with a Black person? So let's say with the MBE, WBE, it's $1 billion out there. That means that mathematically, probably 100 million of that came into the Black community as a pass-through, because that money's going out somewhere else. My realtor was Black. My mortgage company people are Black. So I do that, but I do that from a consciousness of understanding as a Black business person myself about the importance of helping Black businesses. But let's face it though, Nelson, it ain't a lot of places we can spend money at with us.
All right. I'm saying that's a fair assessment of what's going on. Well, now move on to another subject, because I want to stay on these political talking heads. I think I talked to you off camera, this is about 2 months ago, about the school board and what kind of money was spent to get a seat on the school board. And I don't know whether it's my experience or what. I've seen the superintendent resigning a year ago. Really, when the last school board election and Patty Mansour got dethroned, and when I had conversations with her, it was so important to keep this man here, right? But I knew it was going to be just like the others. I'm here, my kids done left, now I got to go get paid for real.
No, I disagree with that basically because I know him personally, like we have conversations. And here's what he had on his plate: the stabbing at Northeast where the kid got killed. He had a shooting outside of a graduation in Central High School while he was in speaking. He had the principal at Central High School had to be escorted out the premises. And that was his boy. He brought him up here. Then he had the incident at Lincoln College Prep where the kids walked out. So I think that over the period of the past 6 months, I think there was one other thing that I'm not at liberty to share because it's personal. But I think that accumulation of those things said, you know what, I'm out of here, because this is not, there's so many issues in the Black community that have nothing to do with him educating kids. And nobody's addressing those issues. Here in Kansas City, we've been listening to housing situations for what, 15 years now? And not one plan has been implemented that's viable to deal with housing. They just ordered or are about to hire another assistant housing director. You got this lady in here now, Jane Brown, who the mayor put in as the housing director, that lives up north. Husband is well-to-do. What does she know about affordable housing or housing needs in the Black community and for people that are living below poverty level or at poverty level? So those issues translate into the classroom, into the school. So how does he deal with those? And actually, here in Kansas City, he had one of the best superintendent contracts in the country, $282,000 a year. And when he goes to this new job, it's going to be less money. However, it's less stress. So one of the incidents that he did, that he was involved in, and his family was involved in, I would have resigned that night when I got home.
At the game?
Huh?
At the game?
No, not that one. But it was another one. I would have resigned that night. I said, look, y'all can have this because this is not worth it. And the economic problems and the problems that are not getting addressed just spilled over. So I don't even knock him for it. And the average life expectancy of a superintendent is only 3 years anyway. He's been here 6. So he's outlived that. And from my conversations with him, even though Patty Mansour wasn't on the board anymore, he had a great relationship with the school board members.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, he had that. And then whoever comes in now, you're going to have to deal with more downsizing, closing more schools, doing all of that kind of thing. So it's a lot on the plate. But like I said, if I was him, that incident that happened to him and his family, I'd have been gone. I would have been sending y'all my resume from the airport.
Hey, but let me say this conversation, because this interview probably will be broke up into two parts, because we on some things right now. What I would say, and information applied is power, and we're powerless. And just like I'm operating on not necessarily erroneous information, but not up-to-date information on why the man left. And you've given some in-depth that makes more sense than anything I would have put together.
Yeah, because the first thing that, mainstream media tried to do was say, oh, he got a new job, that's why he's leaving. No, there were mitigating circumstances that came into play before that. Actually, the new job was just something he kind of stumbled into, like maybe in the 11th hour. He wasn't really seeking another job, and people had been kind of on him. We got the accreditation here, things were moving on, but he was committed to, like, I'm going to stay here. There's some other things I wanted to be able to finish. But all of this other stuff came up on his plate. And, I think probably the one thing that probably was the straw that broke the camel's back was the Lincoln College prep incident, because in my conversations with him, it blindsided him when he's always had an open door policy with them. And he felt like the people behind the scenes should have called him and said, hey, this is what's going on, because the principal resigned. So the issues that they had with the racism there was taking care of itself, but he just felt very blindsided by the fact that they didn't call him.
But in culmination, I meant to say, of what you have described, it goes into our overall conversation about the atmosphere in the Black community, and no one with good sense wants to invest or Now, when you talk about that three, you put it in stark, shine the light on 3 blocks, 25 years. You can do a Lego operation in 25 years and make it look good, but
Carlos,
development.
look at what's been developed while we're waiting for 3 blocks to be developed. They're finishing a $1.8 billion airport. We've had the Sprint Arena, or what's it called now, the
Right.
T-Mobile Arena built. We've had total downtown built. We've had housing development outside the Black community. We've had Lowe's Hotel being built. We've had all of these things done, and we still can't get 3 blocks done. And it goes back to political will, because the other communities, they have a plan. It's a long-term plan. They sit down with the players, they work it out. And one of the things that I commend, and I tell people this, and I think one city council person has followed my outline and agenda. You learn PIAC. You're on the PIAC board. That lets you see how to move money around. That lets you witness how those things go. So that when you move from PIAC to city council, you already know what's going on. You can set up, and Cindy Circle, Terry Riley did this. They set up money before they got on the council. So when they got on the council, all they needed to do was go into that drawer that they had put the money in and implement it. We don't understand that.
You're saying the same thing as, I like to say, my partner, but Jim Watts is becoming more of a mentor to me. And he sat on that PIAC, and I didn't understand the significance of it. And he was saying, man, that's where the money's at. And every time I was saying to you about the superintendent talking in halfway ignorance, I'm talking about some type of development or something. He said, Carlos, you're on the wrong track. I was on that board. This is how this is going down. And if you don't know how that's going down, how are you gonna make any improvements in your community?
Man, I had a candidate that was running for office ask me, what did PIAC stand for? And they were running for elected office. And I said, when they called me and asked me that, I was like, is this a trick question? Am I getting punked here? What is going on? I said, PIAC, that's public improvement money. That's where you get your sidewalks, your curbs, your parks. Every development that you have in your district goes into that. And each district gets a certain amount of money. If they don't spend it, it goes back in a pot in the middle of the table, and then everybody runs and gets it. So when you have situations where the 3rd district PIAC rep or the 3rd district city council person doesn't spend the money, then after a while, other districts pinch off of it. And then the next thing you know, the money's gone, and they got a development project.
I want to close down, but I want to talk about these things also. All right, so a lot of the simplest thing for Black people to understand about power, if you're looking at this, if we vote as a block, and if we buy as a block, we're the most powerful people on the planet, basically. Here in Kansas City.
I disagree with that.
Huh?
I disagree with that.
Well, when I say that, I'm talking about everything. If we move as one, as people of color.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not just, well, it's been proven here in Kansas City when 35 years ago, when Freedom Inc. was, from my perspective, not that they haven't represented the community, but there's a lot to be desired over the last 25 years in the leadership and the direction. And the times, the era has a lot to do with it, the economics and all of that. But I came here, Freedom Inc. had power, and that meant the Black community had power. It was even no trickle down anything. It was, everybody was involved, because you had an Alex Harris who had about 50 contractors, and I was one of them, and everybody was working. And you had politicians like Charles Hasley, Bobby Hernandez, brilliant Doc Holliday, and others that when you talked about strategy and long-term planning, that was being done. And the community benefited from it. Now, that's not being done. I'm switching up. You got people like Highland Dairy and all of these different large companies delivering milk and different things to a predominantly minority school district and other things. And these companies have no accountability because our political leadership is not calling for any accountability, economic accountability. And it seems like everybody is coming in our community and draining it dry. And the opportunity, even for us to own anything, is limited.
Okay, so let me give you a quick, since you went back there, so let me give you a quick history lesson on how we went from there to here.
All right.
So back in the day, you had Reverend John W. Williams, you had Reverend Earl Abel, you had A.L. Johnson, you had Wallace Hartsfield, you had Briscoe, you had all of these Black pastors that could go down to City Hall and say, get this done. And we want it done by the end of the week. And those pastors were not only respected, but to a great degree, they were feared. So now let's fast forward to today. You can't name 5 Black pastors in this community. And what made those pastors so powerful was because their congregations lived around the church. Each one of those pastors commanded a voting block of people. Now, if you look at today's church, you drive through the parking lot and those people live everywhere now. They live out in Lee Summit, they live in Blue Springs, they live in Grain Valley, they live in Independence now. And so those pastors of those churches don't have that base anymore because the neighborhoods have been diluted. So now let's go back into Freedom Incorporated. When Freedom Incorporated was in its heyday, and let me say this, they were a unique organization for a unique time. But in their heyday, before the Bruce Watkins Drive, they had a voting base. Before the Leon Jordan police station, they had a voting base. So when those projects came through, that relocated people out of their districts. Therefore, they didn't have that base anymore. If you look at Leon Jordan police station, and when they built and developed that area over there, what'd you do? You probably sent 100 families out of that area. And that was Freedom Incorporated's home base area, was in that area. So now it's not there anymore. Those people live out in the 5th district, they live in the 6th district. Some of them even live in Grandview now. So you don't have that base anymore. And because you don't have that base, and because the pastors don't have neighborhood church people coming into their churches anymore, that has diluted our power, and we just don't have it anymore. So that's what happened with that. And back in the day, like you said, yes, Leah, Alex, all of those people had that because people were in the hood. People not in the hood anymore. So
man, you see, you've done the deep dive on them, and you know, coming with to me, those was number crunches. Whatever you're talking about, it's not there. You know, I don't come in the city a whole lot, but now that I've moved in the city down here on Benton, when I'm looking at all this gentrification, it really bothers me about that 18th to 27th Street and that hill over there by the hospital and $500,000 homes.
Yeah, we gave them that. We gave them that. That wasn't gentrification. We packaged that up and gave it to them because.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Because
you know who I respect? Alex Ellison and Alice Ellison. Mm-hmm. They didn't move out of their community. Mm-hmm. They said, hey, we're going to do this. And you drive by their place, mm-hmm. Their place look just like you on Ward Parkway. Mm-hmm. But these people in our community, they keep chasing this suburban and this and that. And then these people circle around. You can't even come back where your grandmother and where you grew up because you can't afford it. I had no ideas. I don't know whether I was talking to you. I said, you can't even get back in these homes. They like $300,000. Guys, whoever I was talking was like, bro, those are $500,000 homes just up there on that hill. And yeah. And
a lot up there costs you like $225, depending on where the lot is. Beacon Hills, talking about Beacon Hills, yeah. Them lots up there they bought my grandfather's 2 houses. He was right there on 27th and no, he was further down. He was on 24th and Truce. They bought his house that he lived in and he had a triplex next door. They bought both of them places over there for $15,000. Now you can't even buy a corner over there for $15,000. You come in there with $15,000, they'll laugh you out of there. But
they'll say you can buy a sign.
Huh?
They say you can buy a sign.
That's about it. But that was.
But that's why the economic opportunity. All I can go by is my experience. When I had my offices on Vine, I had 24, 14, 16, 18 Vine. I bought that 2-story building for $4,000. You could buy lots on Vine for $25.
You can't know more.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is where the economics I'm talking about comes into play. The people that have money, they do all of that, and it's just like a certificate of deposit. They're not looking to do nothing with it for 25 years. But when 25 years, the $25 that they paid on it, even if they're not here on the planet, it's in their family. Now, just a plain lot, you're paying $250,000 for. Mm-hmm. Those lots where Calvin Simmons is doing his development. Mm-hmm. When they first put that sign down like 4 years ago, and I called Mark Bryant. I was like, Mark, how much do they want? Because I knew he was involved with that. He was talking, I don't know whether it was 200 and something thousand or 700 and something thousand, some type of figure that I was like, what you on? But, you know, and we're not involved in any of that really long term. And then when we do, we sell our interest.
And that's because we've been programmed to be consumers. We haven't been programmed to be anything else other than that. And you know, when you look at the overall scheme of things, you have developers and you have general contractors come into our community, build this stuff based upon us making them rich by paying them every month to rent out their properties. And you know, one of the things that I always point to also is reverse mortgages. So when grandma and grandpa and whoever else can't afford their house, they run out to refinance reverse mortgage people and get money off of it. Then when they pass, that means that in order to buy it back, the family has to do it. And I wanted to buy the house that I grew up in that my father had. But then when I was talking to them, they said they wanted market value, market rate value for the house. And I was like, okay, so my father got $50,000 from you all. You want to sell me back my family home for 135,000. We could have bought every house in the neighborhood. I grew up in Vineyard Garden. We could have bought every house in the neighborhood for 135,000. But, and when he told me that, they said, yeah, it's 135,000. They didn't bat an eye. They didn't flinch, nothing. It's like, okay, because if you don't buy it, we'll take it down here and sell it to these Arabs, Iranians, whoever they are, and they'll buy every house, put some paint on the wall, some new carpet, and come in there and sell it back to us for 250,000.
Tell me this. See, this is why I really wanted to really try to work with you on some type of program, because you have a wealth of knowledge. Also, you have a high level of respect from not only our community, but the overall community. And you see this reverse mortgage on TV constantly and what have you, and really don't know. I understand, but I understand like that. and
My father and all of his sisters, they all got reverse mortgages. So the first time I really paid attention to it, and actually I wrote about it, and some of the reverse mortgage people were like really hot at me, and they came in, they tried to get Donna to fire me or do another article to not tell people that that was the game. And you can get the house, they can get the money. And my aunt had breast cancer, so her medications were very expensive, and she had limited resources. So she was able to use the reverse mortgage to kind of extend her quality of life. And then when she died, my cousins were in a position of, okay, we grew up in this house, we want to keep it in the family, let's buy it. And those people were talking just total craziness in the price of it. And then when my father passed, it was a different company than my aunt had went to. And I was like, I wish I would. I pay y'all that much for that house. I remember when my mother and father bought the house, I doubt very seriously if they paid more than $20,000 in it for it in the 1960s. But anyway, that's the deal on the reverse.
Well,
and that was how we passed on generational wealth. We passed on generational wealth through Grandma and them's house, through Mama and them's house, and Daddy and them's house. We got the house, we kept it up, we paid the taxes. Now, when Grandma and them die, we living out here in Blue Springs. We don't want to come back in the city, so we just let the house go for not paying the taxes. Then they come in and they buy literally blocks of houses, and then they come back and sell them back to us to where we can't afford it. So that's why you see white people walking dogs in your neighborhood.
Before I left, but now I'm back in the hood, so I'm gonna be doing much more stuff. But before I left online like 6 years ago, man, because I work late, I be coming home at night, 11, 12 o'clock, I'm seeing white girls walking dogs down on Vine, 17th, 18th Street. I'm like, what's going on here? What part of the game is this?
Yeah.
And it has just, now really it's like, they really infiltrated, taking in urban core back. The talk about the housing development. My brain is locking up right there on 19th, 18th Street that they talking about, huh?
Parade Park.
Right. Where's? Give us insight on that.
Too much, too late.
What's going to happen?
What needed to be done should have been being done for the past few years, decade, maybe, renovations. People should have been paying more in rent, their fees or whatever they call them. But, excuse me, I'm sorry. They should have been paying more, and now it's just gotten out of hand, no maintenance. Look for it probably to be a development, and we can hold on and remember the memories of the way it was.
All right,
'Cause it
we're
won't be
gonna
like
close down with this.
Okay, let's close down. 'Cause
Oh, hold it. What kind of job, we ain't closing with this, we closing with the next question. What kind of job do you think Quentin Lucas is doing, and how do you feel about his sincerity? How do you feel about, because politicians, like, to me, I'm always skeptical. It looks like you're trying to be senator, governor, next Obama or something like that, especially with Black politicians, for me. Now, I can't say for everybody. I know you do the deep dive. Give me your opinion. I think he's done an excellent job, me personally, but give me your opinion.
I think he's done an excellent job depending on where you live. If you live in certain parts of town, he's done a great job. I will say this, I think he did a great job during the COVID period, but I think he has flip-flopped on a lot of different issues that were important. I think that some of the people that he's appointed to key positions have just been yes people, with the exception of maybe one or two. But, he's charismatic. He's very popular as far as personality goes. But when the rubber meets the road, I ask myself, and it's a question that he has to ask himself, honestly, soul searching, deep down, is this community in better shape than it was when I got here? And I think the answer to that question, if he honestly answered it, would be no. And we're talking about his backyard. Certainly Kelvin Simmons has his project up, but we were talking about him for 4 years as a city council person and 3 years as mayor. And in 7 years, that project has just gotten underway. And I will commend him for this. He got it underway because it was sitting there stagnated. So I will give him props for the 18th and Vine, 19th and Vine project. And, he got us through the COVID. He's done, if I had to give him a grade, I guess I would give him a C. And I would give him a C.
Give me 1 to 10. Give me 1 to 10 a little better.
1 to 10, 4 minus.
Yeah, all right. See,
and I say that
let me say
because
this. You open every time I ask you about some crap, you half-ass change my damn opinion. Let me say this. I didn't like the man because he stiffed me on interviews a couple of times, and that showed me he didn't have respect for Black media. When he first got in office, I did some of his first interviews, and you can go back to our channel and see and what have you. And then he stiffed me 5 straight times. And hold it, this is the thing. I don't have no secrets, and I'm not ashamed about nothing because it's shame on you. And I told his aide, I said, every time I do an interview, I put a fresh shirt and tie on. I'm Black media. You're costing me money. And then when all this was going on, I had other interviews one after another. You know how your schedule be when you got your show, and they were HBCU coaches. And it's hard to get them on, but the covert, and they were kind of bored, and I would put them off. Hey, I got the mayor coming on. Can I get back with you? I lost a lot of stuff. Then I said, I'm not going to have him on the show, and I didn't even try to deal with them for about 6 or 7 months. Then I got back with them like a month ago, and Morgan says, hey, the mayor will come on this and that, and then he stiffed me again. And so, and in between all of that, I was saying, you're talking all of this big Willie stuff, but about Black and Black economics and Black empowerment, how come you can't have a press conference at Cascade Media's office where the major media has to come to get the story? That, you know, and go ahead, Eric.
My thing with him has been, one, the streets, the trash, but most importantly, reentry. Those are people that are coming back from being in prison and coming in Kansas City. You know, when it's lights, camera, action, then it seems like reentry is front and center, depending on his audience. But at the end, there is zilch, not a dollar in the city's budget that goes for reentry. So now we got people here that have proven that they'll go out and commit a crime. And then you have no safety net for those people in order to help them get their lives back on track. And I think that's fundamentally wrong.
I think that you're right, but at the end of the day, circling the conversation again, all of that comes from what you described 30 minutes ago. No strategy, no foresight.
No political will. There's no political will.
And but not just that, and me personally, I break it all down to economics, because everybody is making decisions on what they say, who they say it to, and how they say it, on how it can might affect their economics. And the other thing I said, they're only looking for the meal right now. Right. They're only looking to get over right now. And I will go. I don't think the mayor is any different from the rest of the people. Remember, I said I think they pop stars, or they and that's more, their image is more important to getting them elected as they see it, and they handle to see it as any substance. And they are following a playbook, like that Republican, the head of the Republican. Oh, I didn't say this about Trump, but the tape is right there. But so when people see that millions still follow, even though they hear the tape, and there's not one denial from R. Kelly. Nobody did nothing until you really catch them in it. And so how can you believe anything that these people are saying? And my last thing was, do you think that our community really understands how important the call is, the Globe, Cascade, and any form of media that's out there? Now, I'm putting a hit on your parent company to a degree, KPRS, because, and I meant to say this when you were talking about that reverse mortgage.
Company.
When you was talking about that reverse mortgage, the majority community, the sharks, everything, a lot of them, they come to the radio stations. I won't let them put that stuff on my network. No money down. All these different things, and especially for our young people, get rims in this, and then your credit be messed up forever. They get them right out of high school with this no stuff and what have you, and the financial literacy is not there. And I'm gonna close. You talked about I'm working with Barbara Courtney, David Haley, and some other people on this incarceration issue. So, in closing, what would you close with to your audience that's listening to you?
Just keep waking up. I gotta go get some people in bed and read them their stories. They're in summer school and they keep coming down here. They know it's that time. About 9:30, we usually start shutting down. But I would say this, just be careful. Make your elected officials respond to you. this week's call, I have my editorial that I wrote today. I wrote an editorial for the Kansas section for the first time. And it's like, let the tail don't wag the dog. With that said, I appreciate you, brother. I want to be like you when I grow up. I think we did an hour, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
An hour. I appreciate you, brother. When I grow up, I want to be like Carlos Nelson.
That's all right. You hold it. When I asked you your age, you already you already grown up. All right, Eric, was a plum pleasing pleasure. And as we always say in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.